Welcome, everyone. We want to go ahead and get started. Thank you for attending the UVU conference on mental health. This session will conclude at 11:15, so we have an hour. This next presentation is titled Navigating Problematic Pornography Use, an act-based approach to healing, self-discovery, and sexual well-being. Our presenter for this session is Joel Wallace. Joel Wallace, LCSW, is a seasoned therapist with a background in psychology and social work. In 2022, he founded Cascade Counseling, focusing on personalized therapy for out-of-control sexual behavior, especially pornography, and managing chronic illness and pain. Joel's holistic approach combines various modalities to foster self-awareness, resilience, and well-being. His commitment to addressing complex and stigmatized issues with empathy and evidence-based interventions defines his practice, ensuring clients receive comprehensive and compassionate care at Cascade Counseling. Welcome, Joel.
All right. If I'm holding this too close or too far away, I need you guys to let me know. This is my first time using a microphone. Usually I just yell really loud, but I don't think that'd be appropriate today. No, I'm really glad to be here today. I'm going to tell you guys something that I tell all of my clients in the first session. I have type 1 diabetes, so if I'm looking at my watch, in this case I'm looking at the time because I am really anxious up here, but I'm checking out my sugars, and then there is a very high likelihood that I'm going to start beeping and going low, and I'll be eating a piece of candy. So don't be alarmed if I start beeping in various ways. It's just the technology attached to me. I do have to share it with all clients in the first session because it can be kind of distracting when you're talking to your therapist and he's like, yeah, keep going. So we'll see how that goes. So before I bring up the slides, I want to say thank you to all for being here and celebrating with me 2 years of my practice being open. You didn't know that was the case, but yeah, 2 years ago today, we opened doors. And at the time, it was just me, and I was like, all right, I work a lot with pornography use, I work a lot with chronic illness, and then as we've grown, we've had different clinicians who have worked with different things. But just wanted to say thank you for that. Are we good to go? We're having some technical difficulties, and that's okay. There we go. All right. So, do you like my very fun ChatGPT-made title? Yeah, my title, if I can get this to work, let's talk about porn. When I think of that, I had let's talk about sex, baby. I think about that with the porn. All right, so why are we talking about this? Well, learning objectives. You have to excuse me, I am nervous. This is my first time talking in front of a group this large, but I'm gonna deal with it. What I hope you guys take away from today, if we can get this to work. So understanding the psychological and emotional drivers of problematic pornography use, learn basic principles of ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, and how to apply to clients, and developing skills to navigate shame and other difficult emotions surrounding pornography use. Right? You'll notice something, I'm saying pornography use and not pornography addiction. Right? Did anybody attend the conference, the workshop last year here with Dr. Gabe Hatch? We have one or two, right? He led a great discussion on addiction language with pornography use. I don't use addiction language. I don't find it helpful with clients. I think it can create more problems. We're going to get into that more. But just know that I'm not going to say things like addiction, recovery, relapse. I'm going to be talking in terms of problematic pornography use, unwanted sexual behavior, things like that. This is like a double clicker. All right, so why are we talking about this? Well, they asked me to. I asked them if I could, and then they said no, then they said yes. So that's why we're here. But really, the reason we're looking at this, I'll start from my experience, and then I'll talk to kind of the research. My very first client in grad school as a practicum student, his presenting problem was pornography use. And I remember sitting with him, and he's coming in, and these are the recorded sessions, and he's like, yeah, I look at pornography, and I masturbate, and I do this stuff. I said, all right, cool, let's talk about that. And I remember going into my practicum class, we're reviewing that session, and a few students in my cohort, their faces were turning red as I'm saying words like masturbation, pornography, orgasm, penis, vagina. And we had a really good discussion in that moment about, actually, Kristen Lambert, if she is here at all today, she's the director of the MSW program here. She was the professor for me at BYU, and she actually made a really good point of, think about the impact that's going to have on a client if you can't have these kinds of conversations, or if they tell you, I struggle with some unwanted behavior. I look at pornography, I masturbate, and you start turning red, and you don't use the correct terminology. That can create problems. So that's why we're talking about this. To go to some research on this, in 2021, there was a research article posted by Dr. Gabe Hatch and others that did a study of pornography use amongst individuals. They had a sample size of just under 900, and in that they found 79% reported viewing pornography at some point in their life. 85% of the men reported, and 79% of the women reported. There might be a slight error in this. It might be 85 and 75. I might have just mixed up numbers. I do have the references on the end of this, and I think you will all get access to these lists. But from that first client to now, I've seen many, many clients have come in, and their presenting problem is unwanted sexual behavior, problematic pornography use. And it can create distress in clients. It can create distress because it's not them living up to the way that they want to. It's not them living up to their values. So that's why we're going to talk about this today. If I'm talking too fast, throw something at me. It probably won't reach me, but at least let me know. All right, I'll ask a question and feel free to shout out. What is porn? What's that? Entertainment. Okay, I've never heard that definition before. Yeah. Any social media that elicits arousal. Any other definitions? No? Just two. All right. One more. Objectification. Okay, I like that, yeah. The truth is there's lots of definitions to porn. There's not one clear-cut, this is what porn is or isn't. I think there was once a government official said, I can't tell you what it is, but I know what it is when I see it, or something like that. When I'm talking with clients about pornography use, I frame it in this context, or this equation. Porn is content with intent. Porn can be anything. Porn can be, we often think of it in terms of sexual imagery, so videos, pictures. It can be reading, right? It can be something that to the average society might say isn't pornography, but because of the intent of wanting arousal and wanting that sexual release, it can be classified as pornography. This is a really important thing to discuss with clients. When they say, I'm struggling with pornography use, what do you mean? And they might say, and they might be uncomfortable. This is hard to say to people. I really enjoy watching videos of women masturbate. Okay. Yeah, I watch videos of men having sex. All right. We want to understand what it means for them, because we don't want to impose our view of pornography onto a client. I had a client many years ago, came in, and he had some OCD around his pornography use, and he would say, I spend hours trying to find the right porn. And I made the assumption, he's probably just looking at videos, looking at pictures, things like that. Well, when I got into it and asked him, what is it that you're looking at? He said, I find very specific pictures of women that are fully clothed in suggestive positions. Okay, that's not what I thought of when I thought of porn. So it's really important that we understand for clients, what does that mean? But I think this is a helpful framework, right? What is the content that they are consuming, and what is their intent in consuming that? Because you can have TV shows that are pornographic. Any Bridgerton fans in here? I'm just curious, would you call that porn? Our Bridgerton people? I heard a yes over here, but... Right, yeah. For each individual, it's unique. It is a unique thing. I'm going to speak to this later, but I might as well point it out now. We have to be very mindful when working with our clients that we're working from their framework and not imposing our values on them, right? If a client says, I watch Bridgerton, and it's a really fun show, cool. If I say, that's porn, you can't watch that. You shouldn't watch that because it's the behavior that you're struggling with, right? I'm forcing my view of the world, my view of things on them, and we want to be mindful of that. Another reason that I think it's important to really understand what client says or means when they say porn is this idea of, who has seen Mulan, the old cartoon? Okay, do any of you remember when Mulan first meets Mushu? He's behind the rock. The fire's casting his shadow. Yeah. That was kind of scary, right? Mulan's already freaking out. What's going to happen? And then this big dragon, Mulan, your ancestor sent me, right? And then he comes around the corner, itty bitty Mushu, right? Eddie Murphy being a dragon. A little bit easier to understand. And this is the thing we see with clients when they use words like pornography, they're adding layers to this scary, scary thing. When we can peel back those layers, oh, when you say you look at porn, you're saying that you find images of women with penises. Okay. To just kind of normalize, not the behavior, but to normalize you're a human being looking at sexual things. All right. I kind of mentioned this earlier. I'm really big on language. Part of this comes into ACT. I'm sure there are some of you here that know ACT a lot better than I do. I came across ACT several years ago and just fell in love with that model and that way of thinking. But in ACT, our language is really important, right? So if we're using, and just think for a second, what language do you use with clients who are struggling with pornography use? Do you use terms like habit, addiction, immoral, healthy? Just consider that. When I have clients come in and they say, I have a pornography addiction. Awesome. Okay, what do you mean by that? And I'll never forget this one client came in, he said, I look at porn. Okay, what does that mean? Well, about once every 6 months, I will look at videos of women masturbating. So you have a porn addiction, huh? What does it do to you when I call you an addict? I don't want you to think about that for yourself. If you came in my office and I said, you are an addict, you have addictive behavior. Just think about the impact that has on you. I mentioned earlier, I'm type 1 diabetic. I call myself a diabadass. My daughter's a diabaddie. I went to a doctor probably in the last year, and I meet with an amazing endocrinologist. She's great. She doesn't say, you have a disease. You're diabetic. She's like, yeah, you have diabetes. Okay. But I go see this doctor for some random reason, and he's looking at my chart, and he goes, oh, you have a disease. That's a tough disease to deal with. He kept using this word disease. I had a visceral reaction to that. You don't get to tell me what I have. I have diabetes. I still live a kick-ass life most days. I eat way too much candy, but that's my problem, right? So again, we're looking at the language that we're using and that clients are using. In ACT, language really matters. We'll talk about that a bit more. I'm being very slow. I'm going to have to rush through this stuff. Some alternate phrases that we can use when talking about pornography: sexual imagery, material, unwanted problematic pornography use. One that I learned about recently, OCSB, out of control sexual behavior. Anyone ever heard that before? No. Sweet. I'm going to leave a book reference for you and some podcasts you can listen to. Out of control sexual behavior comes from Doug Braun-Harvey and the Harvey Institute. Doug Braun-Harvey does a lot of work with men that are struggling with unwanted sexual behavior. And he really pushed back against this addiction language and addiction model, and they came up with out-of-control sexual behavior, which really, it's not you're out of control, it's you have feelings that you feel are out of control, and then you engage in behavior that you don't want to engage in. So these are some different languages, different words, phrases we can use for this. All right, quick question session. Why do people turn to porn? Why do people view sexual imagery? I heard entertainment, but coping. My second least favorite word. I'll talk about why. Pleasure. Avoidance. Distraction. You guys are using some great words. What was that? Escape. Curiosity. I love that. Yeah. Acceptance. Okay. We're sexual beings. All right. She got my slides beforehand and read all this. Education. Yeah. So, danger? Human nature. Yeah. Going back to being sexual beings. Exploration. Yeah. Curiosity, right? Yeah. What's that? Fun. Yeah. Fun. Pleasure, right? So there are many reasons why a client might turn to pornography use. Many reasons why they might turn to sexual imagery. I love that you guys recognized it might be part of just they're human beings and they want to know things, right? I'm going to make an assumption about all of you, but I'm assuming you're all sexual beings. Right. I was talking with my mom. She's a therapist. She works with Wasatch. She graduated after me. I led the way. But I said, yeah, I think it's safe to say that humans are sexual beings from puberty until they're about 50. And she looked at me and said, no, it's puberty until they die. Yeah, we're sexual beings. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. If, when we don't have good language around sexuality, erotic orientation, things like that, people want to look. They want to find out, right? What's a blowjob, right? What's this? Yeah, so we're human, but there's also some other aspects of this, right? Avoidance, escape, coping. I don't like the coping word because we in America misuse this word. Do you guys know what coping means? Getting by, yeah, to manage. But how do clients use it? To fix. Yeah. They don't want to get by with their emotions. They want to fix their emotions. That's why they pay us. That's why they go through the hassle of trying to get on our schedules and say, hey, please help me out. They want us to fix the problem. So I'm not trying to call you out for using coping language. Yeah. No, but I don't use that language. I change it to, when we're working with pornography use, we're going to talk about how we can connect. I'll tell clients, session 1, I will not help you cope. If that's what you want from a therapist, let's find you someone else. I'm going to help you connect. I'm going to help you connect with what's really important to you, what really matters to you. And that gets us into ACT. But yeah, there's lots of reasons why a client might turn to pornography. Some of them we might be able to consider them healthy, helpful. Some of them might be unhealthy, unhelpful, dangerous. All right. Do we have any people here who know about ACT? A few. Okay, I'm going to miseducate most of you. No. ACT was developed in 1980s by Stephen Hayes, Kelly Wilson, and Kirk Strassel. At its core, ACT, and we say ACT, not ACT, because at its core, ACT is about changing behavior. It's about changing the behaviors that clients engage in. It's about changing their internal behaviors of how they respond to themselves. A basic premise of ACT, and I love this premise, we're human beings. We're going to have things called emotions and thoughts. Having those emotions and thoughts is not a problem. The problem is trying to make them go away. That's when we get into really unhelpful behaviors, right? Who here loves to feel sad? we got one, we got two. We love it, right? At appropriate times, yeah. Exactly. I think if I ask these two, why do you love to feel sad? They say, well, because sometimes it's really helpful. I have clients come in and they say, I just don't like feeling sad. I'll say, well, okay, so what do you do when someone dies? Do you go to the funeral and say, I'm so happy they're gone? No, people would think you're crazy. We don't do that. But helping clients understand, in ACT, we're not interested in trying to change the thoughts and feelings that you have in the moment. We're trying to change the way that you respond to them, change the behaviors that you engage in. Parts of ACT, or a big focus of ACT, is helping clients develop what's called a psychological flexibility, the ability to experience life and not fall off the rails. That's how I would describe psychological flexibility. ACT is really big on metaphors to help clients connect with what they're experiencing. How many of us were taught growing up that it was okay to feel sad, that it was okay to feel angry? A few of us, yeah. We need more of you. No, we're kind of taught some feelings are good, some are bad. And ACT says, no, all feelings are valid. Let's learn to connect with those feelings. All right. So ACT has been studied many, many times by people much smarter than me in the effectiveness, and shown to be effective in the treatment of various diagnoses. There was a study done at USU, Utah State University, that actually showed the effectiveness of ACT in helping individuals struggling with problematic pornography viewing. And they showed that after an 8-week ACT protocol, their group they were able to see an 85% reduction in problematic behavior that was maintained up to 3 months post-treatment. All right, so I'm using that as the basis of, this is founded in science. I was told by one of my employees, who's a good friend of mine, that I needed to have good resources because I didn't want to just sound like I was coming up like, I know everything. But I, actually did some research on this. All right. So we're looking at ACT. If ACT says our thoughts and feelings are not the problem, the way we respond to them is the problem, we can look at pornography through this lens. We can get information from clients about what are the emotions that you feel before turning to pornography. One of the biggest ones that I hear from clients, I was just kind of bored. Like boredom's an emotion. It's kind of a stress emotion, right? There's this feeling of like, I should be doing something, but I want to be doing something, right? Sometimes I was really anxious. I work a lot with young adults. I had finals coming up. I was really nervous about this presentation that I had to give. I was nervous about this group project, right? I was sad because my girlfriend left me. There's all these different emotions that can be around this. There's also, we mentioned in here that, sometimes people turn to pornography for curiosity or for exploration. If someone has a sexual thought, oh, I'm really horny right now, and they don't know how to deal with that in a way that aligns with their values, they can look at porn in less than 3 seconds. It takes as little as 3 letters to find pornography, right? And so there's all these reasons why clients might be looking at pornography. So when a client comes in and says, I have a porn addiction and I just can't help myself, I want to help them reframe that to, so you have this problematic behavior that's not really helpful, and what are the things that are happening around this behavior? I'm kind of a mean therapist sometimes. I have clients that will come in, and when I know that they're coming in for pornography use, I will make sure that in my intake session, I'll drop words like boobs, breasts, vagina, sex. I don't just throw them out there like a madman. I weave them in, right? Do you know the most common reaction I get to making those comments? It's a physical reaction. It's this. They're trying to shake that thought out of their head. They're trying to get rid of it, right? It's bad to have that thought. Why? Boobs are amazing. My wife disagrees with that. She's like, boobs are not amazing, right? She's here, actually, not in this room, but she's at our booth. So you can all tell her I said that. Yeah, but we want to help clients understand it's normal to have these thoughts and these feelings. It's an appropriate thing to experience. We just need to learn to respond to them differently, right? All right, before I get into this, I'm going to tell you guys a sad story. Well, it was sad to me, and this is why I do what I do. I had a client come in. Again, I have pornography addiction. I'd say words like boobs, and he'd shake his head. And I got to the point, and this guy was maybe looking at pornography once every 3 months, less than 15 minutes. And he said, hey, Joel, what are your thoughts on me getting chemically castrated? I'll tell you, I want to cry right now because that broke my heart. This young man who believed so strongly that it was so wrong to have these thoughts was willing to go to the level of, let me just kill my libido through chemicals. That was a rough one. That's why I think this is important. I don't want clients being in that position, that they're trying to get rid of normal, natural feelings. All right, I'm going to push through these and then just say, this is our treatment process. We're going to back up on that one. Just if we're giving you a little outline of how we're going to explore this with clients, we're going to gather assessment information, establish rapport. We want them to know that this is a safe place. We're going to introduce them to ACT, get some informed consent, help them understand why they're turning to unwanted behaviors, right? Increase that awareness. We do a lot of experimentation with ACT. We'll even say, I want you to try an experiment this week. Try this skill. Introducing sexual health principles. I'm going to apologize to you. I had to cut that slide because I did not have time. There was way too much to cram into this, and I'm already going very slow. We'll also talk about addressing shame, relationships. Again, I had to cut that one as well. I'm going to throw this up here. When we're gathering assessment information, we need to check ourselves as therapists. What's our approach? What's our stance? We need to make sure we're being curious, non-judgmental. We're providing a safe place for clients to understand this, to explore this. Make sure that we're not trying to impose our values on the client. Who wants to go talk about their struggles looking at pictures of women with penises, if they think their therapist is going to look at them and say, that's disgusting. Our faces say a lot. Mine usually says, oh, that's interesting. We want to make this a reflective space for clients to explore what they're experiencing, what they're going through. Here are just some questions we can ask clients. I'm going to pop these up if this works. Questions that we can ask clients to get an understanding of their own sexual understanding, right? What do you mean when you say look at pornography? What's the frequency? What's the duration? Average amount of time people look at pornography, if it's peak, it's 3 times a week, 15 to 30 minutes is what we're seeing. And there's some research to back that up. But we want to understand, what was their narrative that they grew up with? Was pornography something that was ever discussed with their families? One of the reasons I like talking about this one, I like telling stories. I have a couch that my clients sit on. Under my couch, I have some things. And I'll tell my clients, what were you told as a kid about pornography? They usually say, I was told I cannot look at it, it's bad. I said, okay. You cannot look under my couch. You're not allowed. I see an instant shift in their body. They want to look forward. I mentioned earlier I have type 1 diabetes. I go to the bathroom a lot. Sometimes I go to the bathroom mid-session. And I say, okay, if I go to the bathroom right now, what are you likely going to do? I'm going to look under your couch. Okay, I'll tell you what's under my couch. There's 2 bins with food and cleaning supplies. There's paper, and there's a box of cookies. Do you still want to look under my couch? Not so much anymore. Like I could just to verify what you said, but So understand, what were they taught growing up? If they were told pornography is bad, were they ever told what pornography was? Were they ever told about sex and their own sexual feelings and the fact that they're sexual beings? How do they view themselves as a result of this? Do they have an understanding of when they turn to this behavior, why they turn to this behavior? I think it is important to understand a client's level of education and understanding, sexual education and understanding. I should not have to do this. I have had to try my best to explain to female clients what a female orgasm feels like because they didn't get that information from anyone else. I've had clients in their mid-20s come to me and say, I don't know if I've had an orgasm. Now, I have no problem talking about that. I have a wife, 2 moms, 7 sisters, and 3 daughters. I'm surrounded by women, but I don't feel like I'm the one that should be telling clients what their experience is going to be like having an orgasm. So we need to understand these things that clients are going through. I also like to ask, have they talked about this with anyone? For some people, we're the first person they talk to. Or they talk to someone, what was their reaction? Did they feel supported and connected? Did they feel ashamed? So understand that. All right. My ACT folks, you guys probably know the hexaflex. We're going to talk about the triflex. All these fun terms we use in therapy is just hilarious sometimes. In ACT, there are 6 main processes or principles that we use with clients to help them navigate what they're going through. We can categorize them with this really cool graphic called the triflex. We have helping them be present, right? Be present in the moment, and we're going to talk about self as context. This is kind of one of those harder to understand concepts in ACT. We want to help them be present. We want to help them open up. This has to do with acceptance and cognitive diffusion. And we want to help them do what matters, identifying their values and committing to take action towards those values. And I'll just throw these up here and kind of speak to these quickly so we can I want to make sure I leave time for questions and people who disagree. I'm okay with that. So when I say clients, we're going to help you develop 3 sets of skills. We're going to help you develop skills to be present. Being present is about being in this moment. When a client is overwhelmed with any emotion, they're usually not in the room. Their brain is somewhere else. I think the same thing happens for us all week. I'm preparing for this. I'm in session with my client. I'm looking at them, and my brain's over here saying, did you remember that slide? Did you do that thing? I have to come back to this moment so I can be present with my client. So we'll do a lot of exercises and skill building with clients of mindfulness and being in the moment. Self as context. So I went to an ACT training last year at USU. Even the trainer said, this was a hard one to explain. Self as context is the idea that there is the part of us that experiences thoughts, feelings, and situations, and there's the part of us that notices those experiences. Right? I like to look at it as I am versus I feel. I am is I am all of my experiences. I feel is I feel these experiences. It's a helpful thing for helping clients recognize they're not what they experience. They are experiencing it, but not what they experience. Oh, I keep pointing up there. It's down here. All right, so we're going to talk about opening up or being present skills, and we're going to talk about opening up. Usually clients say, does this mean I have to talk to people? Well, talking to people is always good, but no. Opening up is about making space. Sorry. This clicker's delayed. Opening up is about allowing our emotions to exist and making space for them. Not falling into that struggle of, I'm not allowed to feel sad. I'm not allowed to feel horny. I can't feel those things. So diffusion is really about helping them recognize they're not their thoughts, they're not their feelings. In diffusion, we are not going to get into arguments with clients about, is this thought right or wrong? Is it true or false? I want to ask them, is it helpful? Is it helping you in this moment? And we're going to talk about skills in each of these areas a little bit later, but I just want to throw these up here now. Acceptance. When I introduce acceptance to clients, I get this kind of look and concern on their face. You're telling me I have to love my emotions? No. Acceptance is not about loving or being happy that we feel the way we feel. Acceptance is about allowing those emotions to exist. If we can allow those emotions to exist, they're probably not going to hang around very long. As soon as we fight with them, they're kind of stuck. Kristen Neff has a self-compassion workbook, and she actually cites some of the research that shows attempts to stop thinking certain things makes you think them harder and longer. Attempts to stop feeling emotions makes them more intense and longer. So I tell clients, we're just not going to do that. We want to be more aware of and accepting of these emotions. All right, doing what matters. We're looking at values. What is really important to the client? The important thing with values that I'll say, values have to be client-centered. We should never give the client values. You know, I value being connected. You should value being connected. No, what is it the client finds most meaningful in their lives? I had a client yesterday, we were talking about this. He's going through a breakup, struggling with pornography use, and we were having this conversation about values, and he said, you know, I love being with my friends and my family. And I saw his affect just change. He's excited. He's like, I know it sounds dumb. I feel this rush when I'm connected with my family. It's like, yeah, you're living true to your values. That's fulfilling. That's really important that we know what that is. When I discuss values with clients, we're also not looking at what are their goals. I like to say, you know, values are like a direction. If I told you to head west, when do you reach west? Never. We don't reach our values. We're constantly working towards our values. We're acting in ways that align with our values. And then committed action is, okay, we know what your values are. Now let's live those values. How are we going to do that? How are we going to live those values even when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling sad, scared? All right. I wanted to find a cool picture of people dancing, and I saw this guy, and I thought, this guy's really fun. In ACT, it is not a linear process. We're not saying, okay, we're going to start off with contacting the moment and mindfulness, and then we're going to move to, do you understand that there's the you, this? And no, we're jumping around this hexaflex. We're dancing with the client. You know, it's jazz. We're looking at what does the client need in this moment? If they come in and they're saying, I don't know what's important to me in my life, we're going to talk about values. If they come in and say, you know, I looked at pornography last night and I just can't get rid of that feeling of guilt and shame. We're going to talk about diffusion and acceptance, right? If I see that they're in session but they're not in session, they're doing this move, I'm going to say, hey, we're having a conversation. Let's get present. I don't say it quite like that. I get in their face and say, let's talk now. No. But it's, yeah, just getting the idea, if you're going to learn ACT, it's not this clear-cut A, B, C, D. It is, we're dancing, we're figuring out what does the client need in this moment. Sometimes we might address all 3 or all 6 of the processes in a session. We might focus on just one. It's really client dependent. All right, one of the things that we like to start with, where's my, okay. Till end? Okay, all right. So one of the things I like to do with clients when they first come in is we're gathering assessment information. Tell me all the things that you're doing to deal with this problem. I want to know what they've been using to work on this. Because we're trying to help clients recognize if they're in this trap of trying to control their emotions, the emotional control agenda. You know, like when I just feel really anxious, I go and eat a whole bag of chips because it makes me feel better. How's that work out, right? We naturally as humans fall into this trap. I see a therapist. I see her twice a week. She's absolutely amazing. She helps me when I'm like, hey, I'm stressed out because I have this presentation. I go to her, and my brain says, ask her how I can get rid of this emotion. Ask her how I can change what I feel. I'm an ACT therapist. I know that's not possible, but my brain still wants to do that. Clients are definitely in this trap, so we want to be mindful of that with them. How many of you hear this from clients? Well, I try these skills and it doesn't work. One guy. The rest of you are amazing therapists. A few of us, right? How many clients come in and say, I tried that thing you said, but it just didn't work? And we go, oh, okay, let's try something else. I like to dig. What do you mean it didn't work? I had a client years ago, this is when I was first coming out as a therapist, and she, young adult, came in and just said, yeah, nothing that you have told me to try works. I remember feeling frustrated and like, what am I not doing my job well enough? What's going on? And then I asked her, what do you mean by works? What do you mean when you say it doesn't work? Well, I still feel sad. Yeah, you're a human being. You can't just change these emotions. Now, there's some education that has to go on here, and we're reframing things for clients. But we want to change what it means that something works. Workability, this is a concept you'll hear in ACT, is not, I don't feel sad anymore. I don't feel horny or aroused. I don't feel anxious. Working is, I'm doing the things that are important to me. I'm doing the things that are meaningful to me, that are aligned with my values. So one of the things we do with clients when they come in, hey, tell us what's going on. You've really had this problem with pornography use. Our clients are smart people for the most part. What have you tried? What have you tried to get rid of this problem? And I'll write on the board all the things that they say they've tried. How has it worked for you? Right, we're helping them explore this process of, are they stuck in that emotional control agenda? How has this worked? So you say that because of where we live, I hear this a lot. Well, when I want to look at porn, I go and read my scriptures. Okay, how does that work for you? All I can think about when I'm reading the scriptures is porn. Yeah, doesn't work very well. Or, I did fine until I stopped reading and then I went and looked at porn. Yeah, so that didn't really work. It might work in the short term, but these emotions, they're part of being human, they're going to come back. So we look at, what does it cost? I've had some clients who I couldn't go to work because I just felt so guilty and ashamed. Do you still have your job? What are the costs of these behaviors? Some of the big costs we see are things like disconnection, right? Disconnection from values, disconnection from others. We want to check in with the client in the moment. What's showing up for you as we process this? There's probably some frustration with clients or some sadness. Well, nothing's going to work. I've told you all the things I've tried. I've seen other therapists. I've listened to all the TikToks. Nothing's working. Okay, we can acknowledge those emotions and be there with them. Are you willing to try something new? This is where we're going to stop this agenda of trying to control emotions, and we're just going to start focusing on changing your relationship with these emotions and controlling your behavior. Dr. Cameron Staley, he's a researcher and got a PhD, and he is a clinician as well. In a training that he did, he says, it's like a client is in a hole with a shovel, and they're trying really hard to get out of this hole with that shovel, and everyone comes up and hands them another shovel. You know what you need? You need 2 shovels. You need the golden shovel. You need the shovel 4,000. We're coming in saying, it looks like you could use a ladder. Let's try something different. Digging is not getting us out. Let's try something a little bit different. I just like that analogy because if you're stuck in a hole and you have a shovel, you're going to dig. But if we give you a ladder, you're going to try something else. So this will bring into a conversation of the choice point. The choice point's pretty big in ACT. I don't think Russ Harris is the one that created it, but he's refined it to an extent. In our lives, does this have a laser pointer? Yeah. In our lives, we have moments where we have choices, right? That can be, I just got told that I didn't get that job I wanted. I have a choice in this moment. I'm feeling really aroused right now. I have a choice in this moment. So we'll list up, I draw this on the board, and up here I'll put all the things the client says they tried. And I ask them, did that help you long-term change the problem, and did it feel connecting for you? And usually the answer is no. Okay, so it moved you away from what is really important to you. Why would we spend time and energy doing things that move us farther away from our goals, farther away from our life? But that's what we do. I feel overwhelmed. My vice right now, YouTube, the shorts. My kids, I have a 7-year-old, Dad, get off YouTube. Yeah, that's my thing, right? I come home, I got my kids there, my wife, I've had a long day, and my brain goes, you need to relax. YouTube. And my kids are running around, YouTube. Well, that's not moving me towards the life I want, towards the kind of dad and husband I want to be. It's moving me away from it. This distinction of, is it helping you move away from the life you want or towards the life you want, is really important in helping clients connect with the intent of their behavior. I mentioned earlier, I have clients who'll say, I didn't want to look at porn, so I read the scriptures. My smart-ass remark is, where in the scriptures does it talk about porn? I don't think it does, so that makes no sense. So you did this thing that you're saying is really important to you to avoid an emotion. That doesn't sound like it was helpful. Why would you want to read the scriptures? Why would you want to spend time with your friends? Why would you want to, focus on that assignment you have due? Because it'll move them towards what they want. There's lots of different examples of the choice point, and this is, again, just we're helping client recognize, is what they've been doing working for them, or is it moving farther and farther away from the life they want to be living? All right, so here's some skills we use with be present, right? Mindfulness, I'm sure we all have mindfulness skills, right? Grounding, breathing. Dropping anchor is an ACT skill. Again, I think Russ Harris developed this. It's walking clients through this 3-step process of acknowledge your thoughts and feelings, connect with your body, engage with the world. I'll walk you through this real quick. I'll do it with clients. So client comes in, they're really struggling being present. I'll say, let's just take a few deep breaths together. I want you to just notice what your mind is doing right now. Just notice any thoughts you're having, any feelings you're having. Have them notice it internally. Okay, while you notice those thoughts and feelings, I want you to be aware of your body. What does it feel like to be sitting in this couch? Can you move parts of your body? Can you move your hand or your arm? Okay, so there's these thoughts and feelings that you're having that are kind of hard, and there's this body that you're able to still control and be in charge of, and you're all experiencing all this. Now, I want you to just engage with what's around you right now. I'm big on the senses. I love having clients connect with the senses. What are some things that you can see, some things that you can touch, some things you can hear? I always avoid what can you smell in my office, because I'm in there for 7 hours. I don't know what it smells like. And then I'll ask them this question at the end. What's important to you right now? You're feeling this anxiety, this sadness, this guilt, this shame. You're recognizing that you have control of your body, and you and I are in this room having a conversation. What's important to you? And then I'm sure there's a fancier name for this one, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What are 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you can touch, that kind of thing. But again, it's just getting clients into the present moment, connecting with where they are. Self as context, body scans are useful for this, guided imageries, right? Leaves on a stream. You're sitting on a park bench and you're noticing all of your thoughts as if they're leaves on a stream. There's the observer and there's the experience. The sky and the weather, right? Is the sky the weather? No. The sky is the sky and weather happens. So you as a human being are going to experience all of these things, and sometimes the weather is really bad. It's hard, and sometimes it's rainbows and butterflies. Same with the chessboard. It's just helping client understand you are not your emotions. You are not the feelings that you have. Opening up, when we're talking about diffusion, okay, when you think of diffusion, first think of fusion. Think of 2 metal plates fused together. Not much is going to change there, so we want to create some space. We want to defuse. So there's different ways we can do this. We can have clients notice what they're experiencing, name what they're experiencing, understand. Neutralize is, change the response you're having to that experience. I'll talk about the poo pillow here because it's an important thing. Curiosity. How many times do our clients actually have curiosity about their emotions? Almost never. I don't want to feel this way. I hate feeling this way. What's that emotion telling you? One fun diffusion technique I like to use is giving our thoughts voices. Hid the thought, right? I've been practicing that at home. My kid's like, Dad, that's so funny. I'll try it out. Well, if hid the thought, you tell me look at porn. I'm probably not going to go do that. But if stern Joel is saying, you have to go do this, that's going to feel a little different. So just kind of giving some space for these thoughts and these feelings. I did hid the thought with a client, and he came in last week and said, she told me to do something, I didn't do it. Cool, right? Acceptance. Again, we're talking about allowing these emotions to exist without needing to change them. Any of you guys see No Hard Feelings? No? There's a scene in there that cued me onto this idea of using a finger trap. There's a scene where the main character gets stuck in a finger trap and she freaks out, she panics, she pulls away. What happens when you pull away from a finger trap? You're more stuck. So we actually have finger traps in our office now, and a client's really stuck. I'll say, put your fingers in here. Now, show me how you've been trying to get away from these feelings. They pull, they pull, they pull. We have cheap finger traps, they break. But how do you get out of a finger trap? You lean in and you slowly get out. We can use a tug-of-war metaphor. Imagine I'm really, really strong, and you and I represent your thoughts, and I'm fighting you. How do you win a game of tug-of-war if the opponent is immovable? Anybody know? Let go. We got to teach clients, it's okay to have these emotions. Let's let go of that need to change them. House party metaphor, this is a fun one. Helping clients understand, like, you can have difficult emotions, like you would have a house party guest that you don't like. You can still enjoy the party, right? Quicksand, if you're in quicksand, how do you get out of quicksand? You stop moving. Okay, poo pillow. Years ago, I wanted to get glasses and color them with, like, or put, like, melted chocolate on them, but that was impractical. So I bought a poo emoji pillow. And when clients come in, and I can tell that they're stuck on some thoughts, and they're really not allowing themselves to feel, I'll pull out my friend and say, hey, here's a friend for you. I want you to imagine that this pillow is your thoughts and feelings right now. Most of the time, I see this. They start squeezing it. I'll say, okay, you cannot throw that away. I need you to get rid of it. And sometimes I'll put it behind their back. It's a pillow, so it's comfortable, but I'm like, yeah, is it the most comfortable thing? A lot of times what they'll do is they'll just start grinding it, like trying to compress this pillow into non-existence. I'll let them try that for a few seconds. I'll say, okay, stop. Keep doing it, but don't try any harder. So how's your day going? Tell me about what happened with that girl you went on a date with. After about a minute of that, I'll say, were you paying attention to anything I said? No, I'm focused on this. Exactly. What's another way we can relate to this pillow? Sometimes they'll put it next to them. Sometimes they'll put it on their lap. Say, hey, tell me about that date with that girl that you were talking about. Oh, yeah, it went pretty good. Sometimes I see them stroke the pillow. Yeah. And then I'll ask them, okay, so you were able to put that pillow aside. You didn't get rid of it. It was still there. But how did that feel different? And it's just helping them connect with, if I'm engaged in a fight, I'm going to disconnect from life. If I can allow these things to exist, I can connect with what's really important to me. All right, doing what matters. Values, doing values card sort, bullseye exercise, magic wand. I like to do the mistakenly held funeral. So let's pretend that your family thinks you died and they held a funeral for you, and you sneak into the funeral procession. What do you want them to say about you? What would you hope they would say about who you are as a person, how you showed up in life? And then when we get values clarified, goal setting, right? Committed action, goal setting, helping them understand what's in their control, steps they can take, willingness in action. Are you willing to feel discomfort and take action towards what's meaningful? All right. With goal setting, the slide, again, you guys might have access to this later. I do have too long, didn't read. When we're doing goals with clients, we're not doing emotion or outcome goals. How many clients come and say, I want to stop looking at porn? Okay, well, a dead person could do that. I don't want you to be a dead person, so let's do live person goals. What do you want to be doing instead? I want to be happier. No, that's a feeling that comes and goes. I talk to my clients about emotion hobos. Like, hey, man, got some money? Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. But helping them understand, we're going to focus our goal setting on how you want to be living life, what you want to be doing. Not on changing the emotional state you're in, not on achieving some outcome. Well, when I graduate, I'll be happy. Well, how are you going to live your life until graduation? How are you going to live your life until you get married? Things like that. Okay, 15 minutes left? 12. Okay, I'm going to burn through these slides. This is okay. Shame, we all know ways to work with shame. We do this with so many different diagnoses and things that we work with. I think that the biggest thing with shame is helping clients understand that with us, they have a safe place to explore these things. They have a safe place to explore their sexual questions. They have a safe place to explore the fact that they're sexual beings. The ingredients of shame, right? Secrecy, silence, and judgment. We want to make sure that we're not judging clients for what they're saying they do. If you as a clinician have values that go against a client looking at pornography, refer them out. The last thing we want to do is continue perpetuating shame for clients because of some reaction that we may not even be fully aware of when a client says, oh yeah, I don't want to get into fetish stories and all that stuff because that's a different thing. I like to help clients understand shame is a normal human emotion. It's natural. It's normal to experience. It's just not helpful all the time, right? My wife, and I think I can find this, we were talking about this last night, she found a happy quote that said, shame dies when stories are told in safe places. We need to be that safe place for clients. We need to provide that safe space for them to understand they're not a bad person because they sometimes look at pornography. And if that behavior doesn't align with their values, we can help them navigate that. Again, I was going to address religious shame. We don't have time today. You're welcome to email me or reach out to me. We can have many conversations about that. When we're working with shame, I love bringing in self-compassion with clients. ACT is very big on self-compassion. Kristen Neff also has amazing work around self-compassion. If we want to help clients develop self-compassion, and let's be honest, our clients are compassionate people. If their friend came to them and said, I'm really struggling with the same thing they're struggling with, they're going to say, oh, that's hard. What can I do for you? When they struggle with it, their response is, that's disgusting. I can't believe you've done that. Help them understand these emotions are normal and natural, right? So we're going to help them acknowledge and validate their emotions. Recognize that this is part of being human. You're not defective for having emotions and difficult thoughts. And respond with kindness. What would you say to a friend in this moment? If my clients have kids, I'll say, what would you tell your kid if they came to you and said that they were having the exact same struggle? And you actually can see a shift in their demeanor. It'll go from talking to themselves in this kind of harsh, judgmental, sharp way to, I'd say, like, I still love them. Yeah. Self-compassion is about being there for ourselves when hard things are happening. It's not about making our emotions go away or making ourselves happy. It's about being there for ourselves. So it's really important to help clients develop self-compassion. All right. My wife made this cool thing. So we all know this. Therapy is not linear. People are not linear. We're not robots. When we're dealing with pornography use, a lot of times clients will come in and say, oh, I was doing so good for 4 weeks, and then I messed up. I'm back at the start. And I won't have this cool animation, but I'll draw this for them. I'll say, oh, it feels like this. You get closer and closer and closer, but you're always going back to the start. This does not make sense in life. If you're on a walk, if you're on a hike, and you trip, you're going to go, oh, man, I got to go back to the beginning. Start over. I'll be there, guys. Yeah, I'm coming. Here, I got to do better this time, right? My daughter's 5 years old. We were walking her to school, and she said, Dad, wouldn't it be funny if we tripped, and then we had to walk back to our car? She's never heard me talk about this. Even a 5-year-old knows that's ridiculous. So why would we perpetuate that language with clients like, oh, yeah, you're back at square one? When clients are coming and they're presenting problems with pornography use, I never ask, when was the last time you looked at porn? How many times did you look at porn last week? If they tell me, oh, I looked at porn 3 times last week, I'll say, okay, what did you do to live by your values this week? What did you do to connect with the people that are important to you? I want to have them shift the focus from focusing on the behavior they don't want to do to focusing on the behavior they do want to be engaging in. So I like to, again, I don't draw this cool picture, but I say, this path, we're going to have ups and downs. Any trail runners out there? No? Soon to be, right? When I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I was training for my first ultramarathon, and then I did it, and it sucked every step of the way. And then I finished, and I thought, I could do that again. But it wasn't just up. Actually, I rolled my ankle the first mile in to a 30-mile run. I could have gone back to the car, but that would have been pointless, right? And we want to help clients understand, listen, if we're changing this behavior, we're going to likely see this process of you're going from, again, if it's at its peak, 3 times a week to maybe twice a week to maybe once a week to maybe once every 2 weeks. But really, I want to focus on how are you going to be living the life that you want? How are you going to be living the life that is connected with your values? All right, what's next? I had a client years ago came in and said, hey, our 8-year-old son was looking at porn on his school computer. What do we do? And I said, well, how'd you guys handle it? Like, what'd you say to him? Well, we just said, you can't look at that, and we took it away. I said, cool. If we're going to change this problem in our culture, we need to talk about pornography. We need to say, hey, bud, we saw that you were looking at some boobies. What was that like for you? And your 8-year-old's going to be like, what? This is weird, Dad. But have that conversation. Hey, what was that like? Yeah, you're a human being, and human beings have sexual arousal. Now, use age-appropriate language, right? I should not be the one educating our 21 to 25-year-olds on sexual information. I'm happy to do it, but I should not be the one doing that, right? My sister's a midwife. This kind of made me mad. This was recently. My sister's midwife, she says, yeah, I had a 40-year-old mom come in with her teenage daughter complaining of pain in her vagina because the mom had never taught the daughter how to put in a tampon. The mom asked my sister, can you teach us how to do that? I'm dumbfounded at that, right? And it goes beyond just sexual health, right? But even sexual pleasure, sexual activity, all those things. So if we're going to change this, we need to change the way we talk about it. We need to be more open. I'm not saying we go, hey, porn, sex, boobs. My dad makes a joke that every family conversation I'm probably going to bring up sex. People ask me about this stuff. Right? I'm not just like, hey, who wants to talk about sex? They ask me about it because I like to think that I'm a safe place for people to talk about this. Okay, we have the capacity to change this for clients. If we can help them understand why they're turning to it, change that emotional control agenda. ACT is great for that. Help them better connect with their values. What's important to you? Okay, you don't want to look at porn. What do you want to do instead? So I think that's what we can do to help clients not only change this problem, but other problems they're facing. Okay, we have about 8 minutes, 5 minutes. All right, questions. Oh, I'll use my new favorite saying, agree, disagree, want to fight. Yeah. Yeah, so the question was, what do we do if we have a kid, the parents are concerned they're looking at pornography, how do we help the parents have that conversation with the kid in a healthy way that doesn't damage the relationship, and if the kid denies it, how do we still help the parents? I start with the parents. What's their understanding of sexual health, sexual wellness, sexual education? What were they taught about pornography use? What are their views on it? I want to gauge, okay, let's say that I was your child, how would you approach it right now? And I'm gonna address like, notice how that might be really shaming. You're a bad person for doing this. Let's look at some different language we can use. And really helping the parents connect with their values. How do you want to show up as a parent? Do you want to be that parent that's like, you did it again? No, we probably want to be loving, kind, supportive. Yeah, down here.
I just have a question. Look, hypothetically, you have a client, a youth client that use dark pornography and then feels then compelled to plan out rapes and murders of family members.
Yeah, so the question is, we have a youth who's looking at pretty dark pornography and then plans out rapes and murders of family members. We are now talking about an entirely different issue, right? Now, it's the same content, right? But we're not talking about someone who has probably some personality traits that are really leading them into some unhealthy behavior, some unhelpful thoughts, right? My first response would be like, what do you mean by dark? But then you're saying murder and rape, like, okay, yeah, we're crossing some lines there. So I wouldn't even look at this from a pornography lens. I'd be looking at the clients, their personality traits, things like that. Yeah. Like how I dodged that question? Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to repeat that just because they asked me to for this. So the response was, notice the intent versus the impact, and the intent that's having on others and the impact. And so, yeah, I like that. Any other question? Oh, yeah, one up here. Yeah, so the question is, you're working with a couple, husband admits he looks at pornography, the wife doesn't like it, he's probably not gonna stop. We wanna be having conversations about their sexual agreements. I didn't have time today just because I didn't get to do it, but sexual health principles. And if we, I don't know if you're getting access to the slides, but if you access to the slides, or even Doug Braun Harvey, the Harvey Institute, talks about sexual health principles, we'd help that client understand, okay, you as the husband are hearing your wife's need and saying, doesn't matter to me. Let's talk about how that doesn't align with shared values, doesn't align with honesty, doesn't align with not being non-exploitative, because there's a power dynamic there, right? I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm making an assumption about this client, but we're looking at these other principles of, okay, what's leading the husband to look at pornography? What's the wife's distress with it? How are they communicating that? And then getting them to these sexual health principles. Okay, any other questions? Yep.
I've heard that it's common now for people to get so involved in their pornography use that they actually have a difficult time having a relationship with a real person. How do you
Yeah.
get out of that situation?
So the question was, we're hearing that people get so involved in pornography use that they're having a difficult time getting in relationships. I would kind of challenge that a little bit. I think there's a lot of myths around pornography use, and those myths are what perpetuate the problem. No one's going to want to date me if they know I look at porn. What if you ask them or tell them, hey, I look at porn, and what does that mean? Now, if we're looking at, I would hear that as, are you just going to deep, deep disconnection? What's the pain you're experiencing? What's the fear of having a relationship? Things like that. All right, our time is up. If you guys have any other questions, I'll be around for a minute, but thank you for your participation. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joel, for sharing your knowledge and skills with us today. The code word for this session is helpful. If you would like to earn CEUs for attending this presentation, please complete the session survey located in the conference portal on the right-hand side of the session video. Helpful, HELPFUL. Sorry, I told him to talk into the microphone really close, and then I did not do that same thing. So yes, the code word is helpful. And please remember that if you would like to earn live CEU credit for attending this session, you must fill out the survey today. There is going to be a 15-minute break before the next session begins. Thank you. Yes, I do actually. They texted it to me. The code word for the first session, just a minute. TIPS, TIPS. Better memory than I have, because I was like, it's on my phone. Yes, well, I don't know, but they're all in caps on my sheet, so I would try all in caps. Same thing for TIPS. Thank you.